antaratmana Shadhavan bhajate yo mam Same yukta tamo mata Yoginam api sarvesham Madgaten antatmana Shadhavan bhajate yo mam Shame yukta tamo mataha. Someone else want to chat? Madgaten anta atmana Shadhavan bhajate yo mam Same yukta tamo mataha. Yoginam api sarvesham Madgaten anta atmana Shadhavan bhajate yo mam Same yukta tamo mataha. Anyone else? Yoginam api sarvesham Madgaten antaratmana Shadhavan bhajate yo mam Same yukta tamo mata. Okay, so yoginam, of yogis, api, also, sarvesham, all types of, mat katena, abiding in me, always thinking of me, anta atmana, within himself, shadhavan, in full faith, bhajate, renders transcendental loving service, ya, one who, mam, to me the Supreme Lord, saha, he, may, by me, yukta tama, the greatest yogi, mata, is considered. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Gita. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So we got the other mic there. Let's take it in turns. We can each read a few lines of this purport. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, which is used when there is need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore or to show respect and honor to the worthy one, but service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous. One cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Someone else want to read on?
Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, Verse 3 confirms this as follows.
Yasham Purusham Sakshat Atma Prabhavam Ishvaram Na Bhajantya Vajananti Stanad Brashata Patyantyadha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the Primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse also the word bhajanti is used. Therefore, bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or to any other common living entity.
The word abhajananti, used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, is also found in the Bhagavad Gita. Abhajananti mam mudaha. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajananti and the word worship.
The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti. In bhakti yoga, yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga, it is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called jnana yoga. When jnana yoga increases in meditation on the supersoul by different physical processes, and the mind is on him, it is called Astanga yoga. And when one surpasses the Astanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti yoga. The culmination, factually, Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name. Karma yogi, jnana yogi, dhyana yogi, raja yogi, hatha yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of bhakti yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all the other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of the Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination.
It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shama Sundara, who is as beautifully coloured as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded, illuminating all sides of his glorious lustre, which is called the Brahma Jyoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Ram, Nrsimha, Vahar, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna Govinda Vasudev. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by bhakti yoga, as is confirmed in all Vedic literature. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tatha gurau tasyayite katita hiyarta prakshante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Shveta Shvatara Upanishad 6.23. Bhakti rasya bhajanam tad iha mutrupadi nairasyena mushmin manaha kalpanam etad eva naish karmyam. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya. Gopalta Pani Upanishad 1.15. There are some of the means, these are some of the means for performance of bhakti or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Dhyana Yoga.
This one's dead. So the question today was the difference between mukti and bhakti, and here we heard a lot about bhakti because here this 6th chapter is about dhyana yoga, which is like the yoga of dhyana means meditation basically. So the kind of meditative yoga that we generally associate with. And of course, the highest the highest goal of most people who are following a spiritual path, they think of the highest goal as liberation. So we know, for example, in the path of Buddhism, the highest goal is to get free from all suffering, and the highest goal of the impersonal path is to get liberated to the Brahmajyoti, where there's no more suffering, no more rebirth, free from samsara. So this is the first point to be made about the concept of mukti is essentially a negative concept. It's not really a positive spiritual concept. Mukti is a concept of not something else, right? Just like if somebody's working very hard in their job, and it's a lot of stress and anxiety, and then they're telling their friends, I'm going, I have a holiday coming up. So I have 3 weeks holiday. Why is it good? Because I don't have to work. The very definition of the pleasure or the enjoyment of that holiday is that it's not that suffering, right? What is that? Everyone on a Friday afternoon, everybody's happy. Why? Because the weekend. Not so much they're doing things, but because, don't have to go to work for 2 days. So mukti is something like this. It's a negative definition. Mukti means liberation. Liberation from what? Liberation from suffering. Liberation from suffering. In contrast, bhakti is a positive definition. And bhakti is, as being explained here, very expertly by Srila Prabhupada, it is the process of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord without any other motive, without any material motive. So there is a not associated with bhakti, right? We know the definition of bhakti by Rupa Goswami, Anyabalasita shunyam. So that same word is shunya. So in that sense we have some association with shunya. We're not shunyavadis, but we have that association with shunya means Anyabilashita shunyam. Anyabilashita means other things. Other things. Doing the activities for other reasons is completely jnana karmadi anavritam. So, anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti uchate. So that definition of bhakti is, in one sense, it has an aspect of not this. And we can see, therefore, even by the definition, we can see that mukti is included in bhakti, right? So mukti is the negation of material things, not having any material bondage, material suffering. That's mukti, right? And the definition of bhakti is saying serving the Lord without any material concepts, without any material motives, reason to do it. So actually that concept of mukti is included in bhakti. So that'd be the second main point, right? The first point would be that mukti is a negative definition. It's being liberated or freed from something bad. It's not actually a positive saying what you get. And in contrast, bhakti is a positive definition. It's loving, devotional service, relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the second point would be this, that bhakti includes mukti, right? So we know that there's many verses, and that verse I was going to speak on, 1826, that says Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, that says when you get free from the material world, then you can actually perform bhakti. So you have to get free from the interest in material things to really fully perform bhakti. Of course, we are also performing bhakti in a sense, right? We're here, we're doing devotional service. So it's not that we're not doing bhakti, but to be on the highest level of bhakti, to be fully absorbed in bhakti, one has to be free from the interest in all the material things. And so that is mukti, right? It's right there. That's the definition, right? So bhakti includes mukti. If you focus on bhakti, and Krishna says this in another verse, Mam chayo vyabhacharana bhakti yogena sevate saguna samatityayitam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That by focusing on service to Krishna, then you actually get drawn out of the material world. You actually get situated on the Brahman platform. So that'll be the second point. That the difference between bhakti and mukti is that when you have bhakti, you get mukti included. But when you just have mukti, it's not necessarily that you get bhakti. Because mukti is just freedom from material, from the material influence. Doesn't mean you have the spiritual connection to God, to Krishna. Is there any points that come up for you guys? Would you like to raise or question or comment on? 2 for 1, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Good deal. It's a good deal, man. Discount. Literally, it's exactly right. It's 2 for 1. Yes, Veda. She was saying what? If you...
world and the material nature, you're going to end up going down.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
would you say that then going for mukti is a good thing because at least they're trying to raise up, and then eventually would they get on to the path of of bhakti, because it's kind of saying this is the accumulation, so the jnani eventually, if they perfect that, then they'll
it's a good question. It's a good question. And that brought another thing to mind, which I'll just bring up quickly. This might be the third point, is that mukti is temporary, whereas bhakti is permanent. Huh? You had that already, right? Yeah. We'll come back to this, don't worry. But yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's temporary, right? You're sitting on you're sitting in the resort or whatever, and there's no stress of work, but there's nothing to do. So it's great for a while, but after a while it's like, oh God, I used to kind of like those conversations with my workmate, and it was hard, but there were all these people and there were so many fun things we did. So that's literally what happens when you go to Brahman. It's like there's nothing there, like no interaction. It's just, you have no material miseries, but you have nothing. There's no interaction. So eventually, and so that's part of the question. So there's two ways of looking at this. There's often two ways of looking at things in devotional service. The first way is that in some ways, the people who are on the impersonal path are more advanced than the karmis. In some ways they're more advanced because they're actually following something spiritual. They're actually following something beyond this world. But, it doesn't take much intelligence to know that you're not going to be happy with this body because, it's going to die. And, your parents died and their parents died, and nobody really was successful in staying in this mature world and being permanently happy. So far, it's pretty much a trillion to zero. That's the score. So, you can try, you can make that, but the odds are pretty much against you. So it doesn't take much intelligence to know that, look, we're not going to be happy in this mature world. It's just not going to happen. We have all our plans and everything, but at the end of the day, we're either not going to get what we tried for, we're going to get it, we're going to lose it, or, we get it, it wasn't as good as we thought it was, whatever. It's just, nobody's happy trying to follow a material program because it's temporary and it's insufficient. It's very. So in a sense, people who are going for liberation are higher than that in one sense. But in another sense, if the people who are really trying for, material success have an aspect of God consciousness, and you see this among bhakti yogis as well. We're not immune for this, but you especially see it. Let me say, it's publicized in especially other religious paths where it's like, if you're rich, it means God's blessing you, and be rich, and therefore you're God conscious because you're rich and enjoying and all this sort of stuff. So if they're, in one sense, those people are actually higher because they have that tinge of bhakti. And bhakti is the only permanent thing in this universe because it's to do with the permanent person. It's in relation to somebody who's permanent. And mukti is in relation to the material world, which is temporary. So there's two ways of looking at it. In one sense, they're more advanced, and in another sense, they're not so much. But there's many examples in Bhagavatam. I would say many, but there's Shukadeva Goswami, there's the four Kumaras, who were Brahmanandis, who were liberated, and then they just heard a little pastime of the Lord. They heard something about Lord Narayana, and they're like, bang, on the topmost level of bhakti. Because, the two sides are there, right? We have to develop love for God, and we have to let go of the material energy, the material love. We have to let go of that. We have to embrace the spiritual love. So they've let go of the material love. They're expert at that. They've totally given, they have no... Sukadeva Goswami just didn't even see the different bodies of the beings. It was just all Brahman. He had no... So as soon as the bhakti came, immediately full devotion, right? So that can happen. It can happen for sure. But it's not guaranteed. It can be that the person, is really happy to just be in Brahman and they really don't want to know about the Lord and service to the Lord. No, I don't want that, So then they just go to Brahman for a while, and then eventually they come back to do material activities because that's the only activity. Activity is inherent nature of the soul. It's the inherent nature of the soul. You can't kill it. You can't stop it. It's like trying to wash the saltiness out of salt. It's there. It's there. So you can go to Brahman, but the inherent nature of activity and relationship is still there in your soul, and eventually it'll come out. And if you don't have the spiritual platform of activity, then you have no choice but to come to the material platform of activity and relationship. And Yeah, it's a good question.
So I was thinking based on the example of the four Kumaras and Shukadeva Goswami, and well, let's say them. I think it's a clear example of how bhakti is higher than mukti, because you never see bhaktas going back to like
Yeah.
impersonal path, but
Yeah.
you see impersonalists
Yeah.
looking for something more.
Mm.
So I think that's another.
Yeah. Now there's a very famous verse which describes this, and I think it's describing Shukadeva Goswami, and I'm I'm not sure, but it probably is quoted in Bhagavad Gita. So let me just have a look. Index of verses quoted. It's called Atmaramas Chamunayo. Atmaramas. No, that's a different one. It's not. Prabhupada didn't quote it, but it's Atmaramas Chamuna. You got your phone? Can you just Google that? It's Bhagavatam, Atmaramas Chamunayo, and this is actually the verse when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was an impersonalist. He was after mukti. Have you heard the story about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, how he changed the word from bhakti to mukti in the sloka? So I'll tell you the whole story of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was in charge of the Jagannath Puri temple, and then Lord Chaitanya came there, and he fell in front of the Jagannath deity in spiritual trance, unconscious. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took him to his house. This is all described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, by the way. You can read this whole pastime. So he took him to his house, and then he gradually, came to, he could see he was a super elevated personality. He was like glowing with spiritual effulgence. And so anyway, finally he sat and started to basically preach to him that you're a sannyasi. You should be just studying Vedanta and philosophy. You shouldn't be doing all this singing, kirtan and all this stuff. And you should try for mukti. This is what you should be trying to. Don't worry about this bhakti. This was the whole discussion of this class. Was there? Have you got it? Yeah. What? 1710. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got it there. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quoted this verse and gave 64 different meanings on this verse. And I'm just trying to see the context. And Sanatana Goswami asked him to again explain it, and he did it again explain it to Sanatana Goswami. But this is 1710. Sutta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atma-ramas, or those who take pleasure in the Atma, or the spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, that have achieved mukti, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. Okay, this is Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.10. So, extremely famous verse, and you can see why. It's being exactly laid out here. Can you take that, Jackson, and see, is that talking about Shukadeva Goswami? What's the context of that? Just like flick back the verse before and just see who they were talking about. I think they're talking about Shukadeva Goswami. But that's the issue there is that even a liberated soul, exactly what you were just saying, that the bhaktas, you don't see the bhaktas going back to mukti, but you see the other one. That even a liberated soul, so they've given up all, attachment. Yeah, see, so it's talking about Shukadeva Goswami, right? The verse before says, Sri Shukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. In other words, he was self-realized. He realized he was a soul. He wasn't this body. He wasn't anything to do with this material world. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature as Srimad Bhagavatam? What? In other words, he'd already achieved the perfection of mukti. Why is he bothering studying? Thanks. Perfect. Why is he bothering studying, Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses and all this? And that's the answer. That even liberated souls are attracted to the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we can see, practically speaking, that these qualities of the Lord are beyond the qualities of this material world. Right? So after all of that, finally, to finish the story, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he accepted the bhakti path. And there's one verse that's spoken by, I think it's Lord Brahma, in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a Tattenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam Ridvag vapurbhir vidadhan namaste jivetayo muktipade sadayabak. And it basically says that those who, even though they're getting the results of their previous bad karmas, even though they're suffering mentally, they may suffer physically and may be disrespected, whatever, those who, even though they're getting the results of their previous bad karma, still continue to just do bhakti and still continue to chant and worship the Lord, he says that the doors of liberation open wide for those people. Because mukti pade sadaya bak. And it says that liberation becomes like a rightful claim, like an inheritance. Like if your parents die and they are wealthy, you have an inheritance, right? In every country of the world. Doesn't matter what, that's your inheritance. You deserve that. So in the same way he says, sadaya bak means like an inheritance. That if you can continue to serve Krishna, just somehow or another try to keep serving, keep doing that, even though the different reactions are coming. Someone may come and criticize you and say, well, there may be some physical suffering. Even other people on the path of bhakti may do things that are, not whatever. But if you keep going, it says that liberation becomes your rightful claim. You become the heir to this liberation, right? Mukti pade sadaya bak. Say, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya quoted that verse to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and instead of quoting this, when he got to the last line, he said, Bhakti pade sadaya bak, he said. And Lord Chaitanya said, what? This is Bhagavatam. The verse says mukti pade, because mukti pada means feet. So it's talking about Krishna. It's talking about the one at whose feet liberation is sitting, is situated. It's at his lotus feet, right? Mukti pade, at the feet of Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya said that. He's talking about Krishna. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I used to, my whole life was always mukti, 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 everything was about mukti. But he said that since I've become a devotee, I can't even like the sound of this word mukti. I don't even like the idea of it. Because the whole idea of mukti is like, yes, we'll become free, and it's actually, we'll become free from bhakti, actually. We'll become free from devotion to the Lord. We'll become free from this service, this incredible exchange of spiritual love that we're getting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's another thing we're getting free from, not just the material world. So he said, I don't even like the sound, I don't like this word anymore. And Lord Chaitanya was very, he smiled and he was very, very happy internally, and he said, that's okay, that's nice. But he said, still you can't change the Shastra. The scriptures are written like that. But I appreciate, I appreciate the sentiment. So that's a nice story about bhakti and mukti in the pastime Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes, 1:7:10, yeah. And the question was by Shaunaka Rishi, Shaunaka Rishi was sort of the head of the sages at Naimisharanya, and Sutta Goswami was the one speaking the Bhagavatam. So some of the Bhagavatam is questions by Shaunaka Rishi to Sutta Goswami. And then that's sort of the second speaking of Bhagavatam. In this, the first speaking was Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So some of the questions are Parikshit Uvacha, he's asking Shukadeva Goswami. So Shaunaka Rishi is saying to Sudha Goswami, you just told me that Shukadeva Goswami is a liberated soul. He's got mukti, he's completely free from the material world. Why is he taking the trouble to study Bhagavatam? And that's the answer that's given. Atma Ramas Chamunayo Nirgranta Abhyam Rukrame. That even the liberated souls are attracted to bhakti. So it's superior to mukti and includes mukti. Anything else? We've got 10 minutes, 11 minutes. More bang for your bhakti. Exactly. Yeah, go for it, yeah. That's good, go for it. We got time.
Yeah, in the ashram we're going through the Vaishnava etiquette a little bit. And we were talking about, how like the pictures of Krishna are no different to Krishna, and to not have them in like your bathroom and your room and things like that. But then I was thinking that like they say the name is no different to Krishna either, but there's no restriction on how and where you can chant. And I was just wondering why that distinction is made when there's a picture and the name are both same.
There was one time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the bathroom and he was, he was on the beyond the topmost level of Krishna consciousness. He's Srimati Radharani herself as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so continually calling out Krishna, Krishna, where are you? Krishna, where are you? So he's just naturally calling Krishna's name. And then he came out and he sort of said, what have I done? I brought Krishna's name into into this dirty place. And there was one young boy who said that Krishna's name is always pure. It can be chanted anywhere, so there's no harm, kind of thing. How is that different to pictures and things? Well, pictures and things like that, they're actually a form of the deity. So the deity worship is in a sort of different category. It's using things that have a material form, and they're non-different from Krishna, but they are material things. It might be, might be the marble, it might be paint, it might be ink on a paper, things like that. So they have some existence in space, And so for those kind of things, they're technically in the realm of Pancharatrika Vidhi, Pancharatrika, which is basically, Prabhupada explained, we have hearing, chanting, remembering, following, serving, all of these different things. You've heard that, right? Hearing, all those 9 different processes. So basically the hearing, chanting, remembering, these are called Bhagavata Vidhi. Bhagavata means directly connected to Krishna, right? Krishna's name, talking about Krishna, hearing Krishna's name, and remembering Krishna. These things are directly, immediately, in real time, connected to Krishna. You're touching Krishna directly. And Prabhupada said all the other things, in general, they're in the realm of Pancharatrika, right? So things like taking a bath, so many people take a bath, but they're not devotees. So how is that taking a bath? How is that spiritual? Well, because we're taking a bath to go to do the Bhagavata things, to do the hearing, chanting, remembering. Why is all of those different things? They're a support. They're in that realm of a physical thing. So you see, whereas with the holy name, Lord Chaitanya says, Niyamite na smarana kalaha. Niyamita means, nimitta means like regulated. Nimitta na. There's no particular time. You can't say, oh, you chant Hare Krishna just as the sun is going, and then you'll get the result of the sacrifice, and you'll get liberation, and there'll be 10 grand in your bank account. It's not a material thing. It's a beyond the material thing. So you're lying in the hospital bed, you've just had an accident, you're like about to die, there's blood all over you and crap everywhere, and you go Krishna, 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 and you go back to Godhead. Right? It doesn't matter. It's beyond all of the terrible things and all of the dirtiness of this material world, right? It's the holy name, it's beyond. So the holy name is in that realm. Would we, all get all dressed up and nice to go and have a preaching program in the bathroom? No, right? Because that's kind of an external thing. We're like, we'll come and do it in the temple. But if we're in the bathroom, we're thinking about Krishna, is that bad? We should not think, no, don't think about Krishna, I'm in the bathroom. No, we should think about Krishna in the bathroom, right? We should think about Krishna anyway. Lord Chaitanya said that. So the holy name is in the Bhagavata category, hearing, chanting, directly connected to Krishna. Hearing about him, remembering him, chanting his holy name. And all of the other things we're dealing with, images of Krishna, all of these other things, they have, although they're non-different in one sense, but in another sense, they do have an existence within the material world. This book, it has an existence. I'm not going to take this book and put it on the ground. But I'll stand on the ground and chant. So in that sense, when it comes into that Bhagavata realm, then it becomes more about the rules and regulations, the deity worship, the offerings at 5:40, the artis at 6 o'clock. So it becomes that realm of regulation, and the regulation, it becomes part of the offering. And 90% of the Vedas is in that realm. It's offerings to give some material, there's some interaction of the material world. But the holy name is totally beyond that. It's totally transcendental. So, there's some thoughts about it. Yeah. All right? Makes sense, yeah? That was good. That used 5 minutes. Anything else? You guys have any question? Have any question? No? It's all right. You don't have to. Yes, Emma. Yeah.
So when we are going through a hard time, some people say we're going through purification. How do we navigate through that, apart from keep chanting and keep doing service and keep reading and keep doing everything? Yeah. But do you have any advice on that?
How do we navigate through hard times?
Yeah. I'm talking about especially here in this community, ashram life. Sometimes you feel very lonely, you feel you don't have friends, even if you're surrounded by people, and then you feel Krishna far away, but he's here, but and it feels like you're losing the taste. Yeah, you have all this stuff going on, but you keep going, keep chanting your 16 rounds, keep reading, listening to Prabhupada and this and that. But sometimes, for example, for me, it's hard to come to Mangala Arati when I have these hard times, or I don't want to come to class in the morning. I don't really want to see people. Yeah. So, do you have any advice?
Does it go up and down?
Well, yes. I have maybe weeks where everything is amazing and perfect, and then weeks where I'm I just want to go back home and hug my mom.
I mean, the first thing is that's telling us that there's something's happening. There's something's happening in our heart. It's telling us there's something happening in our heart. If it's difficult, when the athletes are, getting better, when they're training for the Olympics and that, they push it. They do, 50 laps of the pool, and then the coach says, all right, just do 5 more, push it. And their legs are burning, their arms are burning with the lactic acid and stuff. But they do it and they become so much stronger. So it takes if everything was easy and nice, then we know that we're, in terms of our mind and our emotions and intellect, we're not changing. The things that we liked before, we still like. We like this type of mode of passion, this type of mode of ignorance, and if we, if everything's fine, if we're happy in our mind and emotions and everything, then that's the same level as what we were before. But being unhappy, not unhappy, but it being difficult, that's our mind and our emotions are telling us, whoa, this is really different. This is, a year ago, if I did this, I wouldn't like it. And so I don't like it now. But then we have the bhakti on the side, we have the holy name, we have prasadam, we have the devotees, we have the kirtan that's supporting us. And so on this side, we're suffering in our mind because, if we, a year ago or whatever, if we just didn't take any kinds of intoxication and just got up at 4:30 every morning and just swept the floor and did this, we'd be feel like we're in prison or something, right? Literally. So our mind and we would be extremely suffering, right? So that mind is going, I don't like this, I don't like this. But with our spiritual intelligence, we control it. We say, that's okay, it's all right, it's a process. And we take energy, we take satisfaction from the good things, the prasadam, the chanting the holy name, the study, these things. That supports us through that. And then that's why I said, does it go up and down? Because then, after we've done that, and if we've tolerated that, and remember that verse I quoted, Tattenu kampam susamikshmano, that's literally what that verse says. That you have to tolerate those things and at the same time keep serving Krishna. And then liberation comes. And it doesn't just happen once, it happens multiple times. So you go through that process, you undergo some austerity, but you keep serving Krishna. And that level, your mind and your emotions go, okay, fine, I surrender. Okay, I'll surrender that. I don't need that. I can be happy with that. And then for a couple of weeks, it's blissful because you've been liberated from that. You actually come to a higher level. And then there's the next level. All right, now we've got the next level of purification. And that's difficult. But if we keep serving, then that goes, and then we go to the next level. So it keeps going like that. At the same time, we have to be, we have to take guidance from other people and senior people who are on the path and say, this is what's happening for me. Because as we progress, there'll be different, our situation's changing. Maybe their service needs to change. Maybe our situation needs to change. And so those things are going on. That's also has to be there. But the basic thing is that we're going through an intense period of purification, and that's why I said we know that something's going on. By our mind and our emotions are like, oh, I can't do this. You're like, it's okay, just do it. The pacification, the remedy for all of this is the holy name. It's the only thing. Because it's the thing that connects you to Spirit and to Krishna. So by making sure, even if you don't feel like coming to the temple or whatever, you really try your best. I mean, coming to the temple is much better, to be honest. But I'm talking about that japa time, that 2 hours. Don't waste that time. Between 5 and 7 is the key. That's the key to spiritual life. To going, all right, my mind, emotions, you're suffering, but just you go and sit there in the corner for a minute, for a couple of hours. I'll come back to you. Promise. You got me for the rest of the day. But just for a couple of hours, just sit there and just try to hear the holy name. Just try to hear that holy name. That holy name gives you the sustenance. It's the positive thing over here that makes those things tolerable for a higher purpose. But if you give that up, then you don't have any juice. There's no solace. The holy name, it gives that. Oh, okay, 6 o'clock. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You going to do some chanting? Good to see. Yeah, nice.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,